Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, a show celebrating and questioning one of the most beloved entertainment companies in the world through honest, passionate, and clear-eyed Disney discussions. I'm Jeff DePauli, your entertainment-obsessed host with rose-colored glasses removed. Today on the show, we have the House of Mouse headlines brought to you by LaughingPlace.com, your up-to-date resource for the latest Disney news every day of the week. This episode is being released on November 16th, 2022, and here's what's been going on in the world of Disney recently. Bad news for Disney's stock and its CEO, an unexpected inspiration for an updated Disneyland attraction, an animated surprise from Lucasfilm and Studio Ghibli, and more.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
During its annual transformation into It's a Small World holiday, the classic Disneyland attraction made another change, adding 2 dolls in wheelchairs. At Disneyland Resort, these dolls can be seen in the Latin America and finale scenes. The wheelchairs were designed and handcrafted through a collaboration including Disney Imagineers, Resort Enhancement, Animation, Wardrobe, and the Enabled Business Employee Resource Group that advocates on behalf of cast members and guests with disabilities. While these updates are currently in place at Disneyland, similar inclusive changes are expected at Magic Kingdom and Disneyland Paris next year. After introducing mobile ordering for counter-service restaurants and mobile checkout for certain retail locations, the Disneyland Resort is now testing a service that effectively combines these ideas. With mobile merchandise ordering, guests can choose from a selection of retail items in the Disneyland app, snag a pickup time, and retrieve their order at one of 3 locations. Currently, these locations are left of City Hall on Main Street, USA at Disneyland Park, Elias & Company at Disney California Adventure, and World of Disney at the Downtown Disney District. For more information on this service and to view available items, you can check out the Disneyland app. Frozen fans rejoice! You can now once again meet and greet your favorite Arendelle royalty with a return of Anna and Elsa's royal welcome to the Disney Animation Building at Disney California Adventure. The popular meet and greet has been closed since the park reopened, although the characters have appeared in socially distant settings. Of course, while waiting in line, guests can also enjoy 2 selections from the film that play as part of the Animation Building's film loop. Meanwhile, the nearby Frozen Live at the Hyperion remains closed and seems unlikely to make a comeback, but you never know. With Walt Disney Animation's Strange World set to hit theaters later this month, a preview for the film has arrived at Disney parks. A special sneak peek is now playing at Disney's Hollywood Studios in the Walt Disney Presents attraction. Additionally, previews will also be coming soon to Disneyland Paris and Disney Cruise Line. Helmed by Don Hall with co-director-writer Qui Nagayan and produced by Roy Conley, Strange World promises to take audiences into a larger-than-life adventure they won't forget. Whether or not you happen to be in the parks for this preview opportunity, you can still catch Strange World in theaters November 23rd. A new music loop has arrived at Walt Disney Studios Park at Disneyland Paris. While guests were previously treated to daytime and evening loops featuring tunes from a number of Hollywood classics, the updated loop includes instrumental selections from many of the stories and adventures featured within the park, like Frozen, Toy Story, and the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The update comes with part of the park's transformation, which most recently included the opening of Avengers Campus. Further developments will include a Frozen area, a Tangled ride, and more. In 2023, Marvel Day at Sea will return to Disney Cruise Line, this time aboard the Disney Dream. Setting sail January through March out of Miami, Florida, these vacations will debut characters and be a dream come true for any Marvel fan. As part of the experience, taking place in the Walt Disney Theater, Strange Academy, a spellbinding spectacular, will keep families on the edge of their seats with demonstrations of the power of the mystic arts. The show will feature Doctor Strange, the powerful witch Agatha Harkness, and the first ever appearance of Sorcerer Supreme Wong. Elsewhere, young recruits will sharpen their superhero skills during an all-new interactive training experience with Captain America Steve Rogers, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Kate Bishop, held on the upper decks and in the Kids Club. For adults, there's also an adult-exclusive Ravagers Dance Party. For more info on Marvel Day at Sea or to book, visit DisneyCruise.com. As if you didn't have enough Lin-Manuel Miranda in your life, the actor, musician, and writer has joined the cast of an upcoming Disney Plus original series. Miranda will play Hermes, the Greek messenger god, on Percy Jackson and the Olympians. The series is an adaptation of the beloved Rick Riordan novels and will star Virginia Cull, Glyn Turman, Jason Mantzoukas, Megan Mullally, and Tim Sharp, among others. As for Lin-Manuel Miranda, his other Disney credits include writing music for Moana and Encanto, while his biggest claim to fame, Hamilton, is also streaming on Disney+. No release date for Percy Jackson and the Olympians has been set just yet, but production is now underway. Last week, the renowned Studio Ghibli shared a cryptic tweet that seemed to suggest a collaboration between the animation house and Lucasfilm was in the works. Well, it didn't take long for that tease to pay off as a new hand-drawn animated short titled Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies began streaming on Disney Plus November 12th, aka the service's and The Mandalorian's third anniversary. The short is directed by Katsuya Kondo with music by Ludwig Göransson. You can stream Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies now on Disney+. With the return of Indiana Jones to the big screen in 2023, Disney is also looking to develop the world of the famous archaeologist into a TV series for Disney+. According to Variety, Disney and Lucasfilm have specifically been bringing up the possibility of a streaming show set in the world of the globe-trotting archaeologist in general meetings with writers of late. However, no writers are currently attached to the project, nor are any potential plot ideas or details. Of course, this would not be the first Indiana Jones TV series, as the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles aired for 2 seasons on ABC from 1992 to 93, with 4 made-for-TV specials airing on the Family Channel between 1994 and 96. Although this proposed show may or may not come to fruition, the 5th Indiana Jones film is set to hit theaters on June 30th, 2023. More cast members are being added to the highly anticipated Disney Plus series Agatha: Coven of Chaos. First, Aubrey Plaza of Parks and Recreation fame has reportedly been cast on the show. Also joining is Sashir Zamata, who currently also stars on ABC's Home Economics, which you can hear more about on DCTC episode 940, as the sitcom recently joined the primetime at the Parks Pantheon. There's currently no info on what role either actor will play on the series, but hopefully we'll learn more about this WandaVision spin-off soon. We now know some new names heading to a galaxy far, far away. Recently, Disney Plus announced the cast for the upcoming series The Acolyte. Joining the previously announced Amanda Stenberg are Emmy Award winner Lee Jung-jae, Manny Jacinto, Daphne Keane, Jodie Turner-Smith, Rebecca Henderson, Charlie Barnett, Dean Charles Chapman, and Carrie Ann Moss. The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark-side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. Leslie Headland, who created the series, will direct the pilot and serve as showrunner. The Acolyte will stream on Disney+, although a release date has not yet been set. While there's been a lack of Star Wars content hitting the big screen as of late, there's been no shortage of film projects reportedly being developed for the medium. Now we can add another to that list, as Sean Levy, who recently helmed Free Guy and will direct Deadpool 3, is apparently in talks for a Star Wars film according to Deadline. Other Star Wars movies currently in the works include one from co-writers Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson, with Ms. Marvel director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, one from writer-director Taika Waititi, Rogue Squadron from Wonder Woman filmmaker Patty Jenkins, a still-rumored project from Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige, and a trilogy of movies from Rian Johnson, which the Knives Out auteur has recently insisted is still simmering on the back burner. As for whether Levy's project or any of these other films will eventually make it to theaters remains to be seen, but eventually Lucasfilm will have to actually retain a director, right? And now it's time to bring in Kyle Burbank from laughingplace.com. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, Jeff.
That was like kind of almost a jingle right there.
It almost was. Yeah, it was like a .com era.
Yes.
Once like Yahoo and Travelocity or whatever.
Exactly. That's yes. I completely agree. And now Laughing Place must pay me for that jingle.
Well, you know, they did come about in 1999, so they were probably around for all of that.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll take it. Anywho, shall we jump into the news?
Yes, sir. And I'm sure you're very excited for some of this.
I'm probably not as excited as you think, but we'll talk in a moment. Let's start with another hurricane has affected Walt Disney World. This time, Hurricane Nicole closed Walt Disney World theme parks on November 9th, with them reopening the afternoon of November 10th. Now, this one wasn't nearly as extreme as the recent Hurricane Ian. Regardless, I hope that anyone listening who lives in Florida remains safe, and anywhere else that it affected remained safe and didn't get any major damage to your homes. This is, becoming far too common, I would say. But I am curious, do you know if they open at like noon, are tickets less?
Um,
Or do you get some sort of,
I mean,
most people probably book it in advance, but I'm curious if they get any sort of like rebate or anything, because to lose half a day is like a big deal.
Well, they probably lost a lot of attendance too, so that probably helps. But yeah, this was an interesting one because they called it off pretty late in the game. Like they're like, okay, we're going to close early today. So they were never closed for a full day. They just closed early the one day and then opened late the other day. So yeah, definitely more laid back. I don't know if that's the right term per se, but it was definitely different than last time.
Yeah, so in any case, I hope everybody's safe, and this is just becoming the norm, I guess. I mean, it's happening quite a bit, so we'll navigate it as we must, I guess. Moving on, Disney legend Alice Davis has passed away at the age of 93. I feel like we've had a lot of passing away notices lately. Not the most fun thing to talk about, but 93 is a pretty good age. From what I understand, she was in pretty poor health for a while, so hopefully she's resting now. But she's best known for creating costumes for audio animatronic figures at Disney parks around the world, and most notably for It's a Small World and Pirates of the Caribbean. She attended some animation classes at the Chouinard Art Institute, which is how she met her Disney animator husband, Mark Davis, who's also a Disney legend, because he taught night classes at Chouinard. Mark asked her to help design costumes for a live-action reference model to help the animators with the most challenging film to date, Sleeping Beauty. Alice also received a window adjacent to her late husband on Main Street, USA at Disneyland in 2012. It reads, Small World Costume Company, Alice Davis, Seamstress to the Stars. And, this is someone, I'm sure you've probably seen her live at some events, right?
Probably. I know that the Laughing Place founders and team definitely have. Like they had I don't know about a full relationship with her, but I've definitely ran into her plenty of times over the years. So it was definitely one that hit harder for them.
Yeah, she was like pretty much as active. I mean, Bob Gurr is probably one of the most active of the old school Imagineer people, but she was around a lot until I'd say like the last 5+ years or so. So I definitely saw her at a bunch of stuff, and she always seemed like such a sweet lady with such wonderful stories, of course. And yeah, but 93, you can't complain. 93, right?
Exactly.
So let's move on, because on a recent Q4 earnings call, we learned that the Walt Disney Company didn't do so well in its latest quarter, resulting in coming layoffs and a hiring freeze. There is a bunch of little bullet points here I'm going to go through. If you want to interrupt me and talk about any of them, you let me know, okay?
Okay.
So to start, Disney stock is below $100 per share, which is a considerable drop. Disney stock has had the worst year since 1974, but has had its best month since December 2020. Go figure.
That was before earnings. It was a good month. Now it's a little bit less of a good month.
All right. Disney revenue was $20.15 billion versus the $21.24 billion expected. Cry me a river. Sorry. When we get to the billions, I don't feel so bad. Disney's free cash flow is down to $1.1 billion from $2 billion at the end of last fiscal year. Okay, that's almost half. That's kind of bad.
No, there's another number that's similar that we'll get to, I assume, or I'll throw it in.
All right. Disney Plus has 164.2 million subscribers compared to 118.1 million at the end of last year. They did open, or Disney Plus did launch in a bunch of other countries. So yeah. I'm sure that had
and
a
it's
lot
last
to do with
fiscal year, just so everyone knows. It's October to October.
Yeah, October 1st to October 1st is the fiscal year for the Walt Disney Company. ESPN Plus went up to 24.3 million subscribers from 17.1 million, so it grew. Hulu had the slowest growth in subscribers, going from 43.8 million to 47.2 million. Regular Hulu was up 8%, while Hulu with live TV went up 10%. Guest spending at the parks was driven by the introduction of Genie Plus and Individual Lightning Lane. No surprise there.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, the price keeps going up on those things. I still refuse. I will say, it's unbelievable. The lines for the Lightning Lanes are so crazy. I mean, they are just so long. It's nuts in any case. Merchandise growth was due to increased sales of Mickey, Encanto, and Toy Story products. Was there some really cool Toy Story product that came out that I'm unfamiliar with?
Maybe just tie-ins to Lightyear. People nostalgic for actual Toy Story? I don't know.
So Mickey was kind of surprising too. I mean, of course there's the classic Mickey merch that we all think of, like the mouse ears and such, but there must be pushing more Mickey stuff. Encanto, not surprising, but I don't know, the Mickey and Toy Story especially kind of surprised me to read that, but cool. It appears that Disney has not returned to the previous level of investment of new attractions at their parks, unless you include cruise ships. This is kind of interesting to me, because to me, cruise ship is a generally wealthier Disney fan clientele. Agree or disagree? I feel like the cruise ships are a lot more expensive than the parks.
Yeah, I think we just made the distinction because a lot of the spending here is on the new ship, and also they are part of the Disney parks, like DPEP. Mm-hmm. So it's technically the parks division, but that's where we're like, yeah, at the theme parks, they're not spending more, but because they bought a new cruise ship, that kind of throws off the numbers.
Yeah, to me, that kind of leans into the whole narrative these days of Disney catering to the wealthy. I think of a cruise ship as a more expensive vacation than spending a week at Walt Disney World or something. Although these days with Genie Plus and Lightning Lane, who knows? But I thought that was interesting. Even though the theme parks brought in record revenues, streaming investment continues to lose money, which is impacting Disney's free cash. Disney's streaming losses were $1.47 billion in the last quarter. This compares to $630 million in the fourth quarter of last year. So once again, a sizable increase in losses there.
Yeah, so their free cash flow was halved and their losses on Disney Plus doubled.
Unbelievable. Disney will make Disney Plus profitable by increasing prices, adding advertising, lowering marketing spending, and prioritizing high-impact content. So what does prioritizing high-impact content mean? Does that mean they're going to start doing more of those, like, charge you for the movie sort of thing?
I don't think so. I think more of what it is, when we talked about Disney Plus, we're like, oh, this is great because finally there's a place they can keep the tentpole content in theaters and then have those, what Eisner would call singles and doubles, put those on Disney Plus. So now it sounds like the singles and doubles are getting pushed out of Disney Plus, and we're just going to talk about the bigger high profile things like Mandalorian and I guess even Andor now, those sort of like the tent poles, but on Disney Plus level. It sounds like they're going to move towards that they think is going to move the needle and not just like stuff that people might stumble upon and enjoy, but not really something you're going to subscribe to the service for.
Gotcha. So more Hocus Pocus 2s.
That's my takeaway. I could be wrong, but They just throw out buzzwords anyway. So,
all right. The fourth quarter was the first time they released tentpole content from all of their brands. That's concerning to me, considering all of these losses and bad numbers. And this is the first quarter in which we had tentpole content from all the brands. That's interesting and concerning. Hurricane Ian had a $65 million impact on earnings. It's crazy how closed for a few days can make such a huge difference. The cost of setting up hard ticket events like Not So Scary impacted Disney Parks' profit margins. I found this to be strange because those parties sell out like crazy and do super well, but
you're forgetting the timing. So they have to set them up, which costs a bunch, and then their fiscal year ends on the 1st. So they can't count those ticket sales because the parties haven't happened yet. So they can't count that revenue until the next quarter or fiscal year. So that's why.
I knew I kept you around here for something, Kyle. You're a smart man.
Thank you.
Following the disappointing earnings report, prominent CNBC financial commentator and a wacko of a guy, Jim Cramer. Jim Cramer has soured on Disney CEO Bob Chapek. Where's he been? Declaring he absolutely, quote, should be fired. Cramer also called Chapek delusional for acting as though the fiscal quarter was strong when analysts feel otherwise. Now, here's one thing I don't want to say I'm backing Chapek up here. To say he was like acting as though the fiscal quarter was strong, like, isn't that kind of part of his job in these situations to make it seem not as bad as it is?
Yeah, I would think so.
So I thought that was a weird comment. Should he be fired? Absolutely, in my mind.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing, though. I think a lot of Disney fans would want to cheer Kramer's statements here, but I don't think that the reason that that we're all frustrated with Chapek is the same as Jim Cramer's. Like his are, they should be saving more money and cutting more probably. And that's what Wall Street wants too. So I don't think, it's a strange bedfellow situation, but I don't know if Chapek being in trouble for this particular thing is good news for Disney fans.
I don't know if it's necessarily spend less. I think it's make more, right? Like, sure, there's somewhere in between, I would say, but like a lot of things are losing money that once weren't. So
right, but if people's knock on Chapek is that he's the bean counter and just trying to milk every dollar, and if that's not if they're milking all those dollars and it's still not working, then what's going to happen?
Well, that's
next?
Because the brand has been tarnished. Like that's the thing. Like once the people start having bad experiences, that's why they're not spending the money. I mean,
but if people are still showing up and still
some people
spending their money, but it wouldn't show up that quickly. Like the parks revenues were still good. It's the Disney Plus losses that they spent a bunch of money on that are hurting them in the short term. The ones that Wall Streets are freaking out about.
Yeah, what's really interesting is there's always talk about, some of these streaming services will die. They cannot all survive. And I think people expect like the Peacock maybe not to stick around and some others, But it feels like Disney Plus is always one that's assumed to, this is sticking around. Like, they know what they're doing there. I don't know, maybe I think it'll stick around in the long term, but like, it's interesting. Maybe it won't. Like, maybe it's one of the ones that just aren't going to make it. I don't think that's the case, but it's interesting nonetheless.
I think it'll survive in a different form. I mean, if they're whatever they're churning out, I mean, we've already seen it shift. If you think about the early days of Disney Plus to what we have now, it's changed a lot. Like if you remember, they thought it was going to be a lot smaller. So that's why you had those, they made the deal with Supper Club. So there's a lot of like those reality type shows. Some of them turned out to be really good. Like I think you liked Prop Culture, right? I enjoyed that show quite a bit.
Was great, yeah.
But then there's some other ones like that we totally forget about, like The Big Fib, like that game show with Yvette Nicole Brown and things like that. So I feel like it's already shifted towards being more expensive and better content. And so now it seems like it'll probably be just larger content.
I think marketing streaming services is really difficult. I keep saying this, and I don't think I've really seen it happen yet, but I feel like, for me anyway, when it comes to movies, let's put TV shows to the side. When it comes to movies, I'm the type of guy, I fast forward TV commercials. Like, it's pretty rare that I sit through a commercial. So where I learn about new movies is at a movie theater watching a trailer. And I really feel like even if a movie isn't going to a cinema, there should be a trailer before, there should have been trailers of Hocus Pocus 2 before every Disney movie that was in theaters. Now, granted, Hocus Pocus 2 did well, so maybe that's a bad example, but I feel like there's a lot of
movie theaters aren't going to play trailers for movies that aren't opening for that.
They won't, even if they're paid. I mean, they're paid to play trailers, aren't they?
They're paid, yeah, but the studio has some sway over what you play. Like usually if you go to a movie, you'll notice that there's 2 trailers from whatever studio released the movie you're about to watch, but otherwise it's kind of up to them, and they kind of do some things with different studios. But so I worked at a theater, and there was another one in town, and we had clearance on them. It's a whole thing. So if we were playing a movie, they wouldn't get it. So once we learned that they had the movie, we take down the poster immediately, and we pull all the trailers. So if we weren't even getting, the movie was opening in theaters, it just wasn't opening in our theater, and we still pulled all the marketing. But I don't think theaters are going to want to put on trailers for something that's not coming to cinemas.
I had no idea that the cinema actually had that much control over it. I really thought it was just like a monetary exchange between the studios of, hey...
I mean, there's definitely dealings there. Like, so you have people at the corporate offices of these theaters that are in charge of booking. So they negotiate different, how much, I assume at some point they negotiate what percentage of ticket sales are going to get in the first weekend. They negotiate trailer placement and how many prints of a movie you're going to get, which is a little bit moot now because there's not actual prints. But that was a whole thing, was, well, we want 3 prints. Well, we can only give you 2. That's
interesting. I didn't realize that was how the trailers worked. You just enlightened me. Thank you, Kyle.
Yep.
Once again, it's so great to have you here. I'm glad I kept you.
There's 2 things I know, and it's Disney earnings calls a little bit, just from what trickles down from Benji, and then movie theaters.
Excellent. Well, let's see. In other news related, according to an internal memo from Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Chapek, the company will implement a hiring freeze and cut some jobs as the CEO laid out cost management efforts. Quote, as we work through this evaluation process, we will look at every avenue of operations and labor to find savings, and we do anticipate some staff reductions as part of this review. He added, I am fully aware this will be a difficult process for many of you and your teams. We're going to have to make tough and uncomfortable decisions, but this is just what leadership requires, and I thank you in advance for stepping up during this important time.
Appeasing Wall Street instantly. He saw what happened, but I will say, a lot of people assume that this would mean parks. I feel like parks are probably, I think the department is probably fine. It's more stream. That's why it's called targeting hiring freezes.
I think production costs of... Listen, I just think you're going to start getting lesser quality productions on Disney Plus or just less of them, right? Like... Those Marvel shows, I'm sure, are not cheap. Same with the Lucasfilm stuff. And I feel like we've already kind of seen that. I feel like the quality between Mandalorian to Obi-Wan Kenobi is like visually different. Like you can tell that there's a difference in budget, it feels like. So there just might be more of that. But yeah, I agree. I think the parks are doing well and he's enjoying his Lightning Lane cash. So...
Well, and also I think they're understaffed. Like you need a certain level of staffing that's noticeable on a daily basis compared to, I don't know if people are going to notice if they cut the crafty budget on Mandalorian in season 4 or something.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add about all of that terrible news, or shall we move on?
It'll be interesting if things turned very quickly for Bob Chapek. He just got that 3-year extension. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're going to have to buy him out. I don't know. I have no faith that they're going to can him. Like, as much as... I feel like people have been saying forever, oh, he just go... Even before they extended, the board just seems to be, honestly, kind of lazy. And
yeah, but I think, the board is a little bit more interested in what investors and analysts have to say than fans on Twitter. So I feel like it's really going to ride on, Q1 in 3 months.
All right, moving on. Some better news. Disney has announced that the former Tarzan's Treehouse, which was originally the Swiss Family Treehouse, it will become the Adventureland Treehouse when it reopens next year. I was shooketh by this news. My goodness, the new version will pay tribute to the original attraction, which itself was inspired by the Swiss Family Robinson film. The Adventureland Treehouse will showcase wondrous, new environments created amongst the branches of a giant tree on the shores of the Jungle River, where guests will once again enter by the giant water wheel and follow the wood rope stairways up into the boughs? Or is it bows? B-O-U-G-H-S? I don't know.
Let's go with bows.
Let's go with bows. It's worth noting that a Swiss Family Robinson Disney Plus series was said to be in the works and could tie into this version of the attraction, although there was no mention of this in the park's blog post. This is super fascinating to me. I mean, the rumors were Encanto. I think everybody knows that. Can I be honest?
Sure.
Like, I love the fact that this is going to be an original storyline, even though they're saying inspired by Swiss Family Robinson. I love the idea of original. It just seems so opposite of what they're doing, right? Everything is so IP driven.
Okay, so you make me laugh because this is what I got over and over was people saying the same thing, like, "Oh, I'm so glad they're de-IPing it." I'm like, do you not realize that Swiss Family Robinson is an IP?
But that's what I'm saying.
I know, I understand. It's inspired by. It's a little different, but there actually is still some IP in it. It's not something that's already a movie. But you notice in the concept art, there's the sea flag.
Yes.
So that's going to...
And that's becoming a series, right?
That's becoming... It's already books. They've had books about it. It's several attractions. I forget if it's a series or a movie that they're working on. So that's going to be the IP in conjunction with the 1960s IP or this new series that may or may not be happening. We haven't heard anything about it in 2 years.
This is just still so much more creative than I think what anybody ever thought.
That's fair, but I just had to laugh. I'm like, oh, these youngins thinking that this is no IP.
Honestly, you know what I think would make more sense, and this is going to piss off so many people? That space in Adventureland is such a bottleneck. Like, get rid of the tree.
Oh, the tree at all?
Yeah.
Because they took out the one that's closest to the bridge by pirates. That was the entrance to Tarzan. They took that out.
Oh, okay. I didn't even notice that. I saw the construction walls up. So
at least that's what I thought. I thought they were taking that out, which is like a huge improvement.
Oh, interesting. It's just such a bad bottleneck area, and is it that popular of an attraction? I mean, I know it's an old school attraction. I know. But I don't know. Just everything about this news shocked me. Like from the Encanto rumors not being true to getting an original storyline to tying in C. I think it's all kind of exciting, personally.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad by any means. Mike Celestino was saying, "Oh, it's gonna be so weird to see a line for this attraction when it opens."
True. Adventureland Treehouse is slated to reopen in 2023. It is one of those things, though, just like given the trend of like, new IP being everything. It's one of those things where I'm like, okay, this was not important enough to like go high enough up the ladder. So somebody lower was like, we're going to sneak this in. And then it gets announced as like, wait a second, what? We're doing what? And we're not involving Encanto? Say what?
Yeah, I wonder if it's because they have bigger visions for Encanto. Kind of like people like Aaron Wallace, I heard back when they were doing Frozen. It's like, it's not only a disservice to take away Maelstrom, but to shove Frozen into this framework. It feels like it's a disservice to Frozen too. So I wonder if that's kind of what they landed on for Encanto.
Maybe. It's interesting.
It's like you don't want it to be too popular at a certain point because of the bottlenecks you're talking about. That's
that
not
would be
an easy attraction to have lines.
Yeah, that would be really bad if that were a super popular attraction. Very interesting, though. But before we move on to the next story, I want to remind all of you that Who's It's and What's It's is regularly adding new magically inspired merchandise over at their online shop. So if you haven't visited Who's It's and What's It's for a while, go ahead and click on that link in this episode's description to see what's new. And when you find something that you love, don't forget to use discount code DCTC when checking out to save 15% off of your entire order. Now, in a shameless story that we're talking about because our dear and adorable friend Ruben is part of it, the fan favorite Amaret's Patisserie cake decorating experience is returning next week to Disney Springs' sweetest shop. During this 90-minute hands-on experience, you will create your very own edible work of art in a small group setting. Learn from the talented Amaret's Patisserie cast members, including Ruben, as you decorate a classic Mickey Mouse dome cake. They'll guide you through the decorating process from pouring glaçage. He will kill me if I'm saying this wrong. Glacage. Glaçage, I think sounds
I like that.
Okay. They'll guide you through the decorating process from pouring glaçage to placing Mickey's iconic ears, all while sharing tips and some behind-the-scenes stories about Amaret's Patisserie. At the end of class, you and your fellow artists will have a beautiful character cake to take home, along with a special send-off from the team. Have you ever done this?
I haven't.
It's pretty pricey. It's like $200, I think.
Yeah, but the dome cakes themselves are pretty pricey. No, I'm sure this is fun, and I assume Ruben's a part of it again. I know he was the first time around, but he's in, like, as you alluded to, he's one of the photos in the Parks blog post about this, which made me laugh when I saw it.
Oh, we love Ruben. Hi, Ruben. Ruben's listening. So everybody else is like, what? If you go do this and you have Ruben as your instructor, say, hey, I love the shout outs to you on DCTC.
There you go.
But cool. Also, before we go, I want to mention Marvel Studios' Black Panther Wakanda Forever opened as the #1 movie globally and at #1 in all key international markets, delivering an estimated $331.3 million. No surprise there, I would say, but I hope folks enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it?
Well, here's a surprise for you.
You didn't see it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, hopefully you'll enjoy it. I really haven't heard too much about it, to be honest. Like, the buzz, either that or people just know not to talk to me about it. I don't know, but I haven't seen too much posting about it. But, obviously people came out for it. It's not a surprise. It's breaking a bunch of different sorts of records, and good for them, because I'm sure a lot of money and hard work went into it.
The additions at DCA look pretty good. I saw a little bit of the video of the M'Baku show. That seemed like a lot of fun. And then the new Black Panther looks great, of course.
Which one was the M'Baku show? Is that where he's like making noises like an ape?
Probably, because that's
Okay.
It's M'Baku. It's kind of like, it looks like a little bit like the Dora Milaje or whatever they are.
Okay.
Show, but with M'Baku.
All right. Well, I saw a bunch of that stuff. I was at Disneyland for the press day for Attractions Magazine, covering the holiday stuff as well as the new Black Panther stuff. I don't know. The new Black Panther stuff, there was a lot of me just going like, huh? But I'm also not the demographic for that. So I'm curious if fans found it interesting. But there were 1.5 minute shows where not much happened from what I could tell. But I guess people enjoyed it. I don't know.
Well, isn't that kind of what Avengers Campus is like? You guys kind of have these little pop-ups and stuff. So you have some longer shows like the Doctor Strange thing, or I think the M'Baku show is at least a few minutes long. But otherwise you just have these little appearances.
Yeah, I guess it's because they made such a big deal out of them on a press day that people were hanging around, that it's like, oh, is that what I was hanging around for?
Well, because it was the first appearance of the character.
Yeah. People were excited. So I was very happy to see World of Color, Season of Light back. That is my favorite World of Color. So it's nice to see that back. It's been a few years since that. And the holidays are back. So it's all happening. I am not ready for the holidays.
Magic at Christmas time this year. Hearts
Yep.
are gay and merry and full of Yuletide cheer.
That is still a thing.
Spirit of the season. Okay, I'm done.
It's still a thing, Kyle. It's still
Yep.
a thing.
Did they bring Duffy back in that parade?
No, Duffy was not in the parade.
They had him for a little bit.
On the first float, the teddy bear thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just generic teddy bear with ballerina now. I'm sorry.
All right.
Alrighty. Cool. I think that's going to do it for the news. Anything you want to add?
I don't think so. Nothing I can share.
All right. Well, you go see Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and I will go see The Fabelmans, which I sadly have not seen yet. Because talk about limited release. They said limited release, which means usually all over LA because it's LA.
Yeah.
I got to go to the Grove to see it if I want to see
The
it.
Grove.
I got to go from Burbank to the Grove.
Is it an AMC now, or is it still Pacific?
It is. No, it's
Okay.
an AMC now. Yeah, so I can use my A-list at least, but I was just shocked. I was like,
At
are you
least
kidding
give
me?
me Americana.
At least, please. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it was just that first weekend super limited because they knew Black Panther was coming out. And maybe it'll expand a little bit, but I don't know. In any case, enjoy Black Panther. I will enjoy The Fabelmans.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Have a good one, Kyle. Talk to you later.
You too.
To read more about any and all of the stories you've heard here today, simply visit the show notes link in this episode's description. You've heard the news, and now I want to hear what you have to say about it. What do you think of the most recent Chapek news and rumors? Share your thoughts on that or any other topics mentioned in today's episode. Call 818-860-2569, and you may just hear yourself on a future episode of Disney Coast to Coast. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Don't miss any future episodes by subscribing and following Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast on your favorite podcast app. This episode has been executive produced by Mackenzie Jalen Arnold. Gain rewards like Mackenzie, including access to never-before-heard episodes and live-stream Q&As by visiting the Patreon link in this episode's description. And don't forget that I'll be matching 100% of your first month subscription to Toys for Tots for all new patrons joining this month, November of 2022. Basically, anything you need can be found in this episode's description, from additional information and links discussed in this episode found in the show notes, to the DCTC hotline where you can leave a voicemail and be heard on a future episode, access to the show's official website, some free gifts from me to you, and so much more. So be sure to check out this episode's description. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. This podcast is part of the DePodcast Network. Learn more about this show, plus find more quality and entertaining podcasts at DePodcastNetwork.com. That's DEPodcastNetwork.com.